Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We'll give this obviously a few minutes before we start anything. So this will be like a typical DTC meeting where we mill about at the beginning and talk to each other,
So Sean, can you make me a co-host?
possibly.
I think if you go like under my name in chat, is where I think it is. So if you click on participants, click on me, then click on more.
Hey everyone, this is Corey.
Hey, Corey.
How's it going?
Very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just busy.
Hey, Art, talk me through that then to make you a co-host.
I think it's if you just click on participants at the bottom of your screen. You see where that is, Sean?
Yep, manage participants.
Yeah. And then you should, I think if you click on me in the group of participants and click on more, I think the co-host is there. I can't swear to it, but I hope so.
Make co-host. Hey. And yes, I do.
Okay. Now,
That's exciting.
but I'm still not sure that even as a co-host, I can do the live stream. I think you may still have to do that.
Why don't you try it out, see how that goes.
Yeah, I see some additional functionality down here now, but I don't see I don't see the three dots that let me do the live stream.
Well, we'll
Can I
see.
ask a quick question, John?
Yes?
Hi. Is
Haley?
tonight's meeting still on Zoom?
Yeah, we're still on Zoom.
No, but tonight's meeting for Legislative Council.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Let Sean try to get this thing on Facebook before we ask him too many more questions.
We'll try this again here.
Sean, is it just not showing up at all?
No, so I get the all the prompts that you would hope to get this time. And so I'm sharing it. It had said it was just setting it up, preparing live stream, but it was just sort of sitting there and not doing anything. So we'll see. We'll try it again now.
So once you see yourself in your browser,
There's always something, isn't there?
it is. So you should see a preview of what you're seeing on your screen in your browser, in the browser that your Facebook is in.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's just blank.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, we're not going to worry about that too much. We'll just we are
You could have a bandwidth issue.
we're recording the meeting, so we'll just post it later. Not a big deal.
Okay.
So are you in here? Let's see.
She actually just texted me. She's in the waiting room.
Just let her in. I just let her in now. So we'll give her a few. Hi, Sana. We'll give you a few minutes to take a look through the participants, see if we have a quorum.
I just admitted Abdul.
Great.
I'll watch out for the waiting room, Sean.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Sean. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay. Because I couldn't get it. I couldn't hear when I first signed in.
Yep, we got you now.
Okay.
You have to unmute yourself if you want to talk, which you did.
Okay.
Hi, Matt. You're calling from far away. Good to see you.
Jennifer Sacco is just coming in now.
Great.
Elizabeth Hayes.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Aye.
David Lee Ashbury just coming in, and Mark Garofolo.
Oh, good.
How are you?
Hello.
How you doing?
Very good. Hi, Mark.
Okay.
We have Vanessa Crawford coming in.
Oh yeah, I'll admit her, sorry.
Yep. And Sana, you just give me the heads up when you think we're ready to go.
Okay, sounds good. I'll give it about another minute.
Yep, no rush.
Okay, should we start?
Yep. So do we have a quorum? Do you want to go through anything, or how do you want to do it?
I was just going to read off names.
Okay.
Great. Julie Smith.
Here.
0, 1. Press pound to repeat.
Are they taking roll?
Yeah, I'm calling roll right now. So if you're here, can you please say here? Because if you raise your hand, I might not be able to see you because there's so many people on the call.
So you might have to unmute yourself.
Julie Smith is here.
Yep, gotcha.
Mendy Klaus.
Here.
Kristen Zahringer.
Zaringer, yes, I'm here.
Zaringer. Mick McGarry.
He said he might be a few minutes late.
Matthew Fitch.
Here.
David Asbury.
Here.
Christine Witten. No Christine. Stacy Hampton. Okay, no Stacy. Tanisha Foreman. Carol Williams. Carol's not here. Evan Stewart.
Here.
John Flanagan.
He said he couldn't make it.
Oh, that's right. He sent out an email. Ron Asakau. Ron. Cassie Meyerhofer. Mark Bono.
He's here. I saw him.
Okay. Cynthia Cardo. Joseph Baez.
Here.
Baez.
Here.
Christopher Holland. No. Sherilyn Poindexter. Sherilyn here. Athena Gary. Athena Gary. Janina Toro. No. Eric Annes.
Here.
Brian Murphy. I think I saw Brian.
Yeah, I saw him.
Vanessa Crawford.
Okay.
Yep.
Annalise Quintman.
She's coming 30 minutes late.
Grace Yukich. Grace. Elizabeth Hayes.
Here.
Kathleen Keeley.
He's here.
Yeah. Sorry, Keely.
Seth Rosenthal.
Here.
Alan Graham. Alan Graham. No. Shakira Hobby.
Here.
Kyle Blake. Is Kyle here? Justin Farmer.
Here.
He's here.
Patrick Johnson. Patrick Johnson. Corey O'Brien.
He's here.
Michael Lockett. Phil Nista.
Here.
Megan Goslin.
Here.
Elaine Dove.
Here.
Art Hunt.
Here.
Scott Beck. Is Scott here? Tracy Bowens.
Here.
Andre. Dave Cannon. Is Dave here?
I think he's coming shortly.
Okay. Diane Hoffman.
Here.
Karima Mickens.
Here.
Alexa Paniotakis.
Here.
Chris Atchley.
Here.
Deidre Bowman.
Here.
Rhonda Caldwell.
She's on her way home. She's probably going to be a few minutes late, she said.
Thank you. James Pascarella.
And Jim is actually going to be unable to attend this evening.
George Levinson. Michelle Gibbs. Jennifer Sacco.
Here.
Karen Bivens.
She's here.
David Canton. David Canton. No. Steve DeGrand.
David, Nancy, and Steve are all having trouble getting in. Art and Sean, do you see them in the waiting room? Can you let them in?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I just,
minutes here.
Got it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. My bad.
No
problem.
problem. So that was a few folks that just came in here.
David Canton's just coming up.
He's, get him in. All right.
So you said Steve was here?
I believe he's waiting also.
No, nobody's waiting right now.
No one's waiting right now. I see David came in.
David said he was waiting.
He's in now.
Yeah, he's in.
Cynthia Cardo, she's in now. Annalise is here now. And
Dan Garrett?
Rhonda's here.
Oh, Rhonda. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm here, Sana.
Okay, great. And Steve DeGrand is not here. Okay.
Janina's here now too. And Christine Witten, she is just entering right now.
Yep.
Nancy Hill?
She's here.
Yes, I'm here. Steve did say he was trying to get on.
Brad McDowell?
Here.
Okay. I believe we have a quorum.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Got a few pages going on up here, so that's pretty good. So start things off. Let's present the minutes. Sana, do you want to put those up on the screen? And I believe everyone received a copy of these in your email.
Yep.
From Abdul. Are you able to share?
Yeah. Would you like me to share the agenda first or just the minutes?
Just the minutes is fine.
Okay.
Okay, don't break keep the pieces and don't break them, all right?
We will.
Okay, we have the minutes up.
Very good. All right. Do I have a motion to, you take a moment to look at them if you want, if you hadn't already? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right. That was, I believe, Brad, right?
Yeah.
And who seconded that?
Katie.
Katie seconded. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Raise your hands up, however you want to do it. Are there any that are opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. All right, let's move on to the treasurer's report. Krima, do you want to present that? And Sana will put it up on the screen.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Just to provide a few updates, finance team had an opportunity to meet on April 9th. We discussed a number of fundraising ideas, so we'll be working through those. We completed the State Election Enforcement Commission report. That is a mandated report that has to be completed. That was submitted on the 10th. We will be launching our first fundraiser. So I do have that flyer. So that will go out either this evening or first thing tomorrow. In terms of financial transactions, our beginning balance was $3,432.72, deposits of $105, disbursements and fees $1,135.70, with the ending checkbook balance of $2,402.02. And just note there is still one outstanding check for $1,000. So with the reconciled balance, it would be $1,402.02. And our next meeting is May 14th at 8 p.m.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
I second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, very good. Thank you, Sana. Yeah, good. Took that back down. And I'll say just a couple of quick words. So first off, thank all of you. I want to thank all of you for your flexibility. It's been an interesting week as most of you probably are aware, there was a council meeting on Monday and it was Zoom bombed. There were people that got on there and made inappropriate or wrote inappropriate comments. And, they have some different challenges than we do because it's a public meeting. It's a little easier for us to boot people out if anything like that were to occur here. But I also wanted to make sure we were being as secure as we could. And since that meeting ended up being postponed till this evening, there were a number of members who wanted to have some opportunity to participate in the council meeting later. So there were a number of members that requested that we move the meeting. And so that's why we did that. And so thank you for your flexibility with that. One quick thing, I've been talking with there's a food pantry home share. It's for Dunbar Davenport, and the pantry office is out of the business incubator over at the old middle school. And I've been talking with them about ways that the DTC can get involved in helping the community in response in these times. And there's a big need. First off, there's a food shortage in terms of providing food for communities in need, particularly at Dunbar Davenport. And they also need volunteers to, first off, send letters to residents there, finding out, what they need, and collecting food and bagging up food appropriately and having safe delivery. And there's a lot involved in that. And but there's opportunities coming up very soon for us to get involved with that. And I would love to have a point person on the DTC help out with that. I can give you all the tools you need, but it'd be nice if someone would take the lead on that. You could let me know at some point after this meeting, just give me a call or shoot me an email and we will figure that out. Also, we've had some discussions about the website, and so there's some work going on there to get that up and going. And it is already up and going, but to reconfigure it a bit to our current needs to help with fundraising, et cetera, and organizing on our website. So we are working on that. We're working on just a couple of members that are interested in helping on our branding effort to find a new logo, perhaps, for the DTC. And so we're going to be working on that as well. The finance committee did meet, as Krima mentioned, and I anticipate soon some of the other very important committees that we're organizing will be meeting. So if you've been waiting for that, we'll be in touch shortly. The Issues Committee and the Rules Committee are two particular ones that we're gonna get meetings together with those very soon. Just a word about tonight's meeting. There are a lot of people that are going to be speaking tonight because this is the last meeting that we have prior to the May conventions. And so I'm not going to cut off the date, of course, but I'll just ask that you keep in mind that there are a number of people that want the opportunity to address the DTC tonight. So if we hope to get through it, we have to be, we can't be too long-winded. I'm going to have, Mick McGarry offered to do an update from the council. So he's going to speak to us. It's going to be a brief update because he has to leave shortly to make sure everything is set up for his meeting, the Legislative Council meeting that starts tonight. So I'm going to turn that over to Mick right now. Mick? You muted?
There we go. Thank you, Sean, and thank you to the DTC for your flexibility, in moving the meeting. I understand, that is an inconvenience, so we really appreciate it. I will give you a spoiler for tonight's budget hearing. People who live in condos don't want the condo reimbursement taken away, and other people don't want their taxes raised. So there you go. If you want the short version, you can skip out the rest of that. So I do thank you, though, for your flexibility. And of course, we're going to take every possible measure to ensure that the sort of abhorrent hate speech that we are subjected to Monday night does not happen again. We are still actively working on alternatives. We wish for everyone from the public to be able to speak if they wish on any topic that falls under the purview of the council. We have lots of public input for tonight. There are some folks who sent in about public input on the Board of Education side of the budget, but of course we'll read that again this evening. And there's public input on both the council meeting and the budget meeting. Lots of public input on the budget meeting. So we will do that. And we will make changes as we move forward if we can ensure that the meeting will not be disrupted. Speaking to the budget process, it is going to be a very lengthy process this year, as there's, of course, lots of unknowns that we have to deal with, and we have to take our time to sort of see how things are going to play out. We have an important deadline, which is to get out our tax bills. So that is a difficult, hard deadline for us to meet. But as I said, there's just a lot of uncertainties. And we're going to be very diligent looking at all the lines in the budget to be as accurate and as good for the town as they can be. Having said that, there's just a lot of numbers we will not know, and we probably will not be entirely certain of them until very late into our budget process. Some good news, we do have an item on the council agenda this evening, which is a renewal or going out to bid again on our oil contract. As you probably know, oil prices are historically low, and we'll be trying to take advantage of that. We will have on May the 4th. So far, there are not a lot of items for the agenda, but there will be some funding mechanisms for the town as we move through this COVID-19 epidemic. So that is what is coming up on the council.
Hey, thank you, Mick. Does anyone have any brief questions for Mick? Petrell, do you have a hand raised? Is that from before, or do you have a question? That was
from before. No question.
No questions? Okay. We're going to move on to the...
Thank you very much, and I've got to go. And
yes.
I'm sure I'll be seeing some of you tonight. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Mick. All right. We're going to move on to an update from the Board of Education. The President of the Board of Ed, Arturo, is on the line, and he agreed to say a few words. So, Arturo?
Hi, Sean, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for letting us provide an update. I'll try to be really, really quick. I know you guys have a lot of agenda to cover. I think there's 2 or 3 important pieces of information to cover here. I'll start with letting you a quick overview of the work that the schools have been doing during the disruption. Right from the moment that the schools, the instruction on site was suspended back in the middle of March, the initiatives to ensure food security were put in place. We started off with 3 sites, Hamden Middle, Hamden High, I believe in Church Street, to provide meals to students and families that were in need for that. Then a few weeks later, this got expanded to 5 sites now. Helen Street and Ridge Hill and the Keefe Center have been added. And to date, over 30,000 meals have been served, including provision of prepackaged meals to cover the nutritional needs over the weekend. That's the meal side of it. Then there was an online teaching and learning platform that was developed and launched about 2-3 weeks ago, end of March. Then we got the break in between, but it's been in place for a couple of weeks now. To achieve that, there was a quick purchase of over 1,000 Chromebooks to make sure that all students who didn't have this technology were able to access that. It was distributed, and we continue to try to identify those ones that might have not gotten it. We still have a few more, but the numbers is going down. We also provided information on how to have internet access, and as of this week, we still had about under 50 households that needed assistance by providing them a hotspot so they could have internet access. That's a side of that's a quick overview of what's been going on. Of course, we've continued to have meetings, applied for grants. Maybe the other aspect is some of the cost avoidance of savings are related. Temperature of all buildings has been brought down to achieve energy efficiency savings there. Over time, the work schedule has been adjusted, so there's no overtime. Maybe it's very minimal. 1 week I remember checking, it was maybe like not even $200 for that week, so it was very, very minimal. We're also taking advantage of this, having the buildings available to conduct some reparations that are needed. I know Westwood's bathrooms are being taken care. There's work that was needed that's been done or conducted. Some serious plumbing that was required. Some other electrical work. A lot of it concentrated in the high school, and few improvement and upgrades in that regard. Yesterday, I thank you all for providing your feedback, support for the budget of the proposed by the board. The hearing was yesterday, and I want to just give you a quick overview of how that came to be. The initial number to do what is called the maintenance budget, which is to do the same thing that we've been doing, that was planned to do this current year. The number came at 4.6%. Then the superintendent could figure out a few adjustments, ways to find efficiencies, reconfigure, reallocate resources. So he brought his proposal at 305%. Once the board, and Walter will be speaking to providing you a little bit of an update in a minute. Once the board review was conducted, the percentage proposed was adjusted down to 2.37% and 2.37%. And there was a line item that needed adjustment, so that was even adjusted further to 2.35%. That's the budget that was proposed. Includes an additional million of revenue coming from on the ECS front as part of a bill that is being phased out over a 10-year period, which we think the delegation still, we would appreciate if that could be sped up a little more. We can use all the resources we can get, and 1 million is great, but we're still underfunded by over 10. So that's my quick overview. I could keep going. I could speak, I'm long-winded, but I think that kind of captures a number of topics, and I would leave it at that. If Walter is going to add a few more details on the budget. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Arturo. Walter, do you want to say a couple of very brief words
No, actually, for the sake of time, Arturo covered everything pretty well. I would just note that while there is an increase that we are looking for in 2.3%, some of a large portion of that, when not including salaries and some other contractual increases, the board went and put some funding in respective line items to support its various equity initiatives. We had assigned some funding in our adopted budget for a summer learning program or learning summer academy camp, which obviously this was pre-COVID-19, but that would have been a program we were looking to offer over the summer months for some of our lower performing students to try to help reduce summer slide. We've also put money in to reinstate the Family Resource Center at Ridge Hill School, which was another one in our district already, but there was two at one point, but that was cut some years ago because of a reduction in state funding. But now we're funding it at Ridge Hill, and that's essentially a resource center that provides resources to parents around parenting, and as well as some additional monies for curriculum development in district in light of events that took place in our district to have a more culturally inclusive curriculum. We allocated $200,000 additionally, as well as more money for professional development and an increase in professional development days. So that's just a very brief and skinny rundown of some of the increases and programmatic changes we're looking to make. But anyone who would like further detail, feel free to reach out to myself or any member of the Board of Education. I know we'd be happy to give you, sit down and go over some things a bit more in depth. So thanks, Sean.
All right, thank you very much, Walter.
It's a quick 15 seconds of probably good news. Because our budget was approved in early March, before the whole COVID-19 crisis unfolded, we did not account, what's not accounted in there is that the level of need and interventions and programming to cope with the negative impacts is not factored into that. Our estimate at this point is that we will need an additional $500,000 for the programming that will be needed. In trying to help not only the students but also the families, providing maybe like after school program. The partial good news here, well, good news is that the funding that comes from the CARES Act, and Senator Looney and the delegation could add a little more on this, includes $111 million for Connecticut for education, and that we believe that the funding that will come to Hamden might be able to cover these expenses for the following fiscal year. The real concern that we have is that the impact here is going to be long term. So going forward, the question is this funding going to be available for the foreseeable future to alleviate this negative impact? But I'll leave it at that, and thanks again.
All right, thanks, Arturo. Sana, can you put up so next on our agenda is the resolution for DTC support for Medicare for all. So we're going to recognize Chris Ashley for that. And if you could put that up on the screen, although everyone, I believe, received this in their email as well.
Yeah, and I also have it available if need be. I could throw it up on the screen.
Nope, it's up.
Okay, great. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to read through the resolution and the supporting documents. And I know we're short on time, so I don't want to belabor this, but just a few short words. I know at very least some of us received an email this afternoon from another DTC member with some reasons or maybe excuses as to why we shouldn't discuss this or why we shouldn't vote on it as a Democratic Town Committee. And I stand in opposition to that. I feel that it is our role to not only have these discussions, but also to look at new ways forward with passing a resolution like this to help convey what we want to see from our party's candidates is in regards to like support various platforms and policies. So I just wanted to point that out there in response to the email that we all received. So basically, I just want to move to bring this resolution to the floor for discussion and then for a vote. Can I have a second from anyone?
So is there a second?
Second.
Well, actually, I'd like to second that, but I just wanted to say I understand the politics of it and all that, but I think this is a no-brainer. It's something that we should all support. If anything, this virus has shown us again the inequities in our healthcare system. So I fully support this measure and hope that everyone else will too. So I second that.
Thank you, Tracy.
Good. Does anyone else, so we can start a discussion on this now. Does anyone else want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a general question that does relate to this. So Sean, you've announced that you want to form an issues committee.
Yes,
and that
sir.
Seems, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have, in the last meeting, we had one resolution. I was still too sick to sort of know what was going on at that point. And in this meeting, we have two, and they seem like sort of the obvious place to do this would be to run these through an issues committee, unless I'm misinterpreting what you had in mind by an issues committee. And I'm not saying we should bar people from submitting these on their own, but it seems like some prior discussion before they're kind of thrown out and voted on would be helpful, because we are certainly voting on the issues themselves, which I happen to support both of the issues that are being brought forth in the letters this week. But we're also, as a body, voting on the wording. Like, this is an official letter that we are signing as the DTC. So it seems like having, a second, third, fifth, ninth set of eyes on them and some discussion beforehand would actually be really helpful in terms of the quality of the final product.
So since you directed that to me, I will say that, yes, this is the kind of thing that will come out of an issue committee as well as a platform. But of course, members can and should feel free as equal members to submit resolutions. And this has been, it was sent in an email to all the members ahead of time, and everyone has the right to do that. But this was not, this was an organic resolution coming from DTC members who had an interest in it. So I as chair, I don't have an interest in overly policing that. But yes, once we have an issues committee, then this is the kind of thing that they will look at.
Well, sure. Then I just would like to make one more very quick comment that this is very well written, I thought, but as a profession, my profession is polling, and I was a little concerned with the polling numbers that were included in this, because they were, I would say, selectively quoted and perhaps quoted out of context. And as a town, we've had a lot of discussion about using numbers that are taken out of context. So the specific context, of course, was the percentage of people who support Medicare for all. But if you look at the report they were taken from, more people, and it says it right in the report, more people support other health coverage alternatives than support Medicare for all. So I wouldn't necessarily well, I am quibbling with it, I guess. I just think we should be careful to in the way we put these things together, because we're signing them as a body, as a group.
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to weigh in?
I would.
Elaine.
The only thing, I understand Seth's position. He's got a point that's good. The problem is, I believe this was raised at least 10 years ago, probably longer, by a member who was a doctor, actually, who wanted to see healthcare for all, probably more a la Obamacare. But anyway, it never got anywhere because our issues committee rarely comes out with a statement, that an issue that we all, can vote on. And so the bigger problem is not doing anything and then versus doing something that may not be perfect. This may require, a modification, which I think, Seth has a good point. I mean, I don't know what the statistics are. I can only see part of the letter and I can't remember what I did with the other hard copy, but I'm just saying to you that oftentimes you get bogged in nothingness and then it gets kind of lost. So I sort of applaud Chris for saying, hey, let's do this. It's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. And I think certainly a lot of young people, and I consider myself way back when we first brought this up back in the 70s, I thought this was a great idea. So, insurance for all. And that's basically what Medicare for all is about. So I don't know how to get beyond Seth's concerns and doing something that Chris can do and then just doing something, like as in, let's get this done before our issues doesn't meet for 6 more months.
Thank you, Elaine. And thank you, Seth. Also, I just wanted to address one of your concerns because it's a concern that was raised by other DTC members as well, as far as this letter going out immediately after we vote and hopefully pass this resolution. That's something that we're not looking to do. We understand that the Legislative Council is, I don't want to say burdened, but occupied right now with taking care of the budget, and they're also kind of in uncharted territory as far as running this whole thing remotely due to the circumstances. So that letter, I would say, can absolutely be worked on collectively and revised and sent to the council at a later date when things somewhat normalize. So the resolution, I think today, although I know you had a concern about some of the statistical information in there, would really just be for us as a body to come out and say, we support the Medicare for All Act of 2019, and that we will look to create a letter, a document that will implore our legislative council and other elected officials to do the same.
All right. Does anyone else have anything to add, or do we want to?
Yeah, just a quick add. Just
Dan?
Elaine, I'd just like to thank you. You're right. If we don't start moving on something, I mean, you were talking 10 years ago that this was brought up and we've never done anything about it. And then Chris, actually, I just want to thank you, Tracy Bowen, Chair Grace, for moving this forward. I think it's critical that we move this issue forward. I just want to thank everybody who's involved in it.
Could I make one more comment? I believe that we would want this to go to the Democratic state central. I would believe this is a Democratic, not a local legislative council issue, because I don't think they're going to do anything about it. They're not a political body. They're an elected body. But I could be wrong about this. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of where it should go, but I would think it would go from here to the state level, so that they then begin to say, okay, well, at the state level, we have an interest here at the local level for Medicare for all, or for universal health care, or whatever we want to call it.
Can I weigh in there a little bit?
Oh, who's that?
Brad McDowell.
Hey, Brad. Go ahead.
So yeah, I really like that, and I think we should be absolutely putting pressure on our state government as well, especially since, you know, our state obviously has the power to be able to do something on a local level, especially Hartford being the insurance capital. You know, I think that if I can speak to Chris, because Chris reached out to me and talked to me about it a little bit ago, and you know, we were kind of picking each other's brains. I thought it was a really thoughtful idea, because ultimately it allows us to put pressure on, you know, Blumenthal, Murphy, and Rosa DeLauro. You know, those are the people who ultimately are going to have to go in and champion, you know, these kind of things. You know, they're the delegation from Connecticut. I mean, if they can't go to DC and champion this kind of thing, then who can? Considering that Hamden, you know, provides them with a significant portion of the Democratic votes that they pull from the state, seeing support from not only the DTC but the council, I think would be a really meaningful push for them to let them know where their people stand. That's just my thought process and why it might be important to see something from the DTC and the council as well, and encouraging the Democratic members of the town council to pass a similar resolution in support of a single payer option. A single payer system would be, I think, a smart way to go about it and let them know where we stand.
All right, thank you, Brad. Are we ready to vote on this, or does anyone have anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to get in. This is Dave Canton.
Hey, Dave.
Good. How are you? I think the challenge with these Medicare for all, I think dollars and cents. I think because when people hear it, increased taxes, there's no numbers behind it. You know, how can we in a way put numbers behind what does that mean? People first are gonna say increased taxes, and people don't realize that, you know, at Connecticut College, we have what the employer contributes, I contribute. There's no hard data. What does it look like? What does that look like in my tax bracket? What does that look like X, Y, and Z? I think that becomes the problem. We don't have data, numbers, or some approximation. People don't, it just sounds like more taxes and that's it. So I don't know if there's any way we can do that with whether this works for the state, how much the state puts in collectively. What does it look like in dollars and cents? I think that's always a challenge we get with Medicare for all, universal health care. We have colleagues in Canada and Germany, wherever, but for the average American, I'm taking home less money. That's all they calculated. How can we, as a way, give them some data points, something?
Good.
Wouldn't we have to look at the Obamacare to see how that worked out? And when you think about it, I mean, I don't know how the numbers all sort of played out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that was a huge push for something that the very argument that you're mentioning was raised previous to getting Obamacare in. And so, but I think this is more a policy. I'd like to sort of maybe recommend, and this is just a recommendation you guys can think about, is, I don't know, Sean, when's our next meeting? Because we have all these conventions coming up.
It's going to be the 21st. It's a busy meeting because it's the same time as the conventions for the 88th and the 91st.
Well, that's not such a terrible thing, but I'm wondering if the issues group, along with, I don't know, Chris, are you on the issues group? If you could sort of claw this back a little bit, look at it in some way that may, in fact, maybe not just say Medicare for all, maybe universal health care, I don't know, whatever things you're thinking about, and then bring it up at that meeting, even though we're having a convention, and get it passed. So it's a policy issue.
I absolutely appreciate your input, Elaine, as well as David. But I think that's something that's going to be developed down the line. If we wait to see, I mean, there's been plenty of significant information put out there as ways to fund this that we're not going to get into or have a philosophical debate about right now. But this is something that will be developed down the line. Right now, today, which I do want to vote on today, regardless, if people are uncomfortable, they can show that by abstaining or voting no. That's totally fine. But I want to take a vote on this today, if possible. I don't want to stall it. So I just think that the main focus of this is that us as a body supporting Medicare for all system that will allow all Americans to have access to health care. And there's lots of things that are going to be worked out, and these bills may have different iterations down the line. But we're not passing the bill. We're not passing a binding resolution. This is just us coming forward as a body saying that we support this idea of Medicare for all. And these are the two bills that are most prevalent, that have recently been presented and discussed, and that's why this resolution is tied to them. So,
Eben?
Yeah, Chris actually summed up pretty much everything I was going to say, which is I don't want to get bogged down, and I don't think it's our job to get bogged down in things like how it's funded. I think it's that the concept that we as a DTC are voting on here, which is healthcare going to be, do we want it to be a right? Is it the view of this DTC that healthcare should be a right and that it should be, either low or zero copays, and that we fund it through taxes? How we balance all that out is really not up to us. We're just stating a policy goal that we want to see. So I don't know if necessarily using the exact name of the bill locks us into that particular bill from a policy standpoint, but something along the lines of, and if more of these come out in the future, just saying, look, here's something that we support. We support spreading healthcare costs out among the entire population. That is that, and whether it's Medicare for all or whether it's whatever the new bill of the year is, it's easier just to say this is a policy that we support rather than trying to. And that's when things don't happen, is when we start nitpicking about, oh, well, this bill doesn't cover this. Well, no, it's not our job to balance that.
All right. Thank you, Eben. Is discussion done? I don't see any other hands up. Ready to move for a vote on this? Okay.
The easiest way to do this is for people to just say yes or no on the group chat. I think that'll be the easiest way for me to record it.
All right, very good. So if you all go down below in the voting members of the DTC, you see the chat, and just write in yes or no, or don't write anything in if you want to abstain.
I do it. Damn.
If you're abstaining, it would actually be nice to have that recorded.
Yeah, and Sean, maybe for next meeting we can have tools that will help us record these votes.
Yes.
It looks like everyone has submitted their vote, and
I vote. Can you see? Because I can't find myself.
No, I don't see it in there. Like,
Yeah.
I see that you voted.
Yeah, I got it now. It's in the bottom.
great. So it looks like everyone says yes.
All right, passed. Very good, congratulations. All right, now we are going to recognize Rhonda Caldwell for a resolution from the DTC in support of the expanded vote by mail in light of our current situation. Rhonda?
Yep, I'm here. We just were talking about the changes that just came out from the CDC that they're looking at. They're actually projecting that with the flu season happening in the fall, in addition to the coronavirus, that it's going to be extra difficult period of time for, you know, our health and this virus and the spread of it. We wanted to extend the absentee ballot process to include some additional information with regard to those who are at high risk categories that don't choose to physically go to the polls, but will vote by absentee ballot.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second it if I can.
You can. Excellent. Discussion?
Is this letter, this is the letter that is being submitted. We don't have to submit something individually, right?
No.
No, it would be submitted, and what we would do is ask for an executive order from Governor Lamont, and we would hope that Senator Looney would be willing to ask Governor Lamont for that executive order as soon as possible, because I'm sure it would take some significant amount of time to prepare the town clerk's offices and the registrar of voters around the state to prepare for more than, just a handful of absentee ballots, because with this change, they would probably receive maybe 10 or 20,000 absentee ballots, because really the high risk category for COVID-19 has just been expanding daily, which puts a lot of us in that high risk category that we want to exercise our rights, but we may not feel comfortable standing in a line at a polling station to vote on November 3rd.
Okay, any other discussion?
Can you just clarify for a moment? So it's signed, maybe someone already said this, it's signed by Common Cause and CCAG at the bottom. Can you clarify what that is?
I believe we are adding our name.
Okay, that's what the X's are for. Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we're adding our names.
Yeah, those are not hugs and kisses there.
No.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
A quick question, Eric. Eric Ennis, would Denise Merrill, the Secretary of State, be the appropriate recipient, or this is a letter we're signing on to so we don't choose? I don't see her as copied on, and she's the elections officer of the state of Connecticut constitutionally.
I believe that.
Who was that?
Denise Merrill.
Eric Ennis talking.
Okay.
From the fourth. And
right.
My question is, I would think that I don't know the executive authority on this area, but I would assume Denise Merrill is the one that has the authority, but I don't know the answer.
Yes, she does.
And regardless, she should be sent. Yeah, she should receive it.
So it really should go to her. But Rhonda, are you sending this back to Common Cause and Connecticut Citizen Action Group?
Yes, and they're actually on the call today too. So,
okay.
Yes, we would send it back to them.
They're sort of running. Yeah, they know that she's the.
Yeah, they would send it back to her, and we would just be included as one of those that are in support of this executive order.
Yes. Yes, that's correct. You've got it's correct.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, let's move to a vote on this then. This seems like a
Mr. Chairman,
controversial one. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt?
Yeah, I sort of submitted the waive there. Just one comment regarding the Secretary of the State. This measure, which I do support, should be addressed to the governor because she is not free to implement this without an executive order from the governor, because she has to, while she supports this, she has to follow the laws that that are on the books, and the governor needs to be the one to allow this. I will also add just one other thing. The remedy for this is not to ramp up support for the town clerk's offices, who, even under the best of circumstances, don't have the staff and funds to do this. The remedy is to do it to actually get the ballots in people's hands on a statewide level. But that's not part of this letter, which I think is correct, just a side point. So thank you.
Right. Thanks for that clarity, Matt. I think that's all accurate. All right, we're ready to have a vote on this. We could follow the same move as last time in the comments. You could put yes if you support, no if you don't support, abstain if you'd like. Does anyone still need to vote, or are we done voting there? All right. Sana? So it looks like we have all yeses there.
Yep.
All right, very good. Passed. Congrats. Very good. All right, now I beg forgiveness from our state central people. I'm going to skip over you guys for just a moment because I know there's some time constraints that some of you let me know about. So we want to get to allow as many people to address the DTC as possible. So we're going to move on to candidates who are running for state senate. And we're going to start with Alex Taubes. Alex, you're on the line here, right?
Good evening, everybody.
There you are.
Alex Taubes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. So my name's Alex Taubes. This is Alexander. You can call me Alex. I'm 31 years old. My mother immigrated to this country in 1979 from Iran. My father, and she got her degree in marriage and family therapy at Southern Connecticut State University. My father's a radiologist. He works up in Manchester and Rockville hospitals, and he's responding to this coronavirus crisis every day. And I'm a civil rights lawyer here in New Haven, and that's what I've been doing since I graduated from Yale Law School 5 years ago. And it's a pleasure to meet many of you. Unfortunately, under these really terrible circumstances, I saw many of you at the polls on March 3rd for the DTC elections. It seems like so long ago. What I've been up to over the last couple of months is offering my services pro bono to small businesses, nonprofits, individuals who are unemployed, people who have employment issues, and even some people who are incarcerated who have been affected by this, to try and respond as a community and offer my skills and services as best I can. And the one thing that I've heard repeatedly, consistently from everyone who I've talked to and met is that we need the government to be doing more. We need the government to be doing more economically, socially, in our prisons and jails, and with people who are needing to put food on the table. And as I've been exploring a run for state senate, I started exploring before all of this happened. I've received the support of hundreds of people who have encouraged me to move forward. And so tonight, I'd like to announce to all of you that I will be putting forward my candidacy for the state senate on August 11th. The election will be going forward, as many of you know, with the presidential primary on August 11th. I'm a progressive Democrat. I've been a Democrat since I voted for the first time when I was 20, because I was one day too young to vote when I was 18, because I was born on election day. And I have a platform online which you can view on my website, which I'm going to send in the chat to everyone. And it says some of the things that I stand for, what I believe in, and the things that I would love to do as your state senator. Now, I acknowledge that I would be running against the incumbent, Senator Martin Looney, and I want to just say that I admire the things that he's accomplished in his career and believe that he's a good and a great man, a person who I really want to model myself after. That being said, we do differ on some of the issues. Some of that's on my website. You can look under the issues page. And I also think that now more than ever, people in my generation need to stand up and take action, put forward what we believe. And on August 11th, I hope that I can give the people a choice when they go and vote. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope that I can get your support at the upcoming convention. Those of you who are delegates, you'll probably be hearing from me, but if I'm not able to speak to you before the convention, please give me your vote so that I can have a chance to give the people a choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And does anyone have any brief questions? I know Senator Looney has a class he has to go teach shortly, and so I don't want to hold him up too much. Any questions for Alex? And thank you, Alex, for coming to our DTC meeting. All right. Seeing no questions. All right. Senator Looney, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a great honor to be here once again before the Hamden Democratic Town Committee, even under these extraordinary circumstances that we're facing. I am Martin Looney. Many of you know me for many years. Some I've gotten to know more recently. Many of us have worked together for many years on progressive issues facing the state of Connecticut. For the past 6 years, I've been the Senate President Pro Tem. For a dozen years before that, was a Senate Majority Leader in both cases, selected by my colleagues for those leadership positions. And once we were through the 16-year period of having to deal with the Republican governors, John Rowland and Jody Rell, we have been able to push through a great deal of progressive legislation, beginning in 2011 with Governor Malloy, with passing a state earned income tax credit for the working poor. That's something I've been working on for a number of years, decriminalizing possession of small amounts of marijuana, abolishing the death penalty, moving most recently in partnership with Governor Lamont in the last year to raise the minimum wage incrementally to $15 an hour and to pass paid family and medical leave when we find it got critical mass to do so. These are important initiatives for the working people of Connecticut. I have worked very closely over the years with the leadership of the progressive unions in the state of Connecticut and continue to work very closely with them. For the last 6 weeks, in particular, since the Capitol closed down to regular business on March 11th, I've been in daily contact, organizing our caucus and daily conference calls to deal with many of the issues that have come up in this context, dealing with the governor, talking to all of our congressional representatives, with representatives of labor, of business, of institutions, and organizations and businesses that have been affected by this crisis, with the hospitals, with the community health clinics. We, our caucus, have advocated for many positions with the governor, many of which have been included in his executive orders. And I could just go down briefly some of those that have been touched upon and that he's responded to. Namely, we sent an open letter to the governor to take action to protect incarcerated people from COVID-19. He has done some of that. We believe he should do much more in terms of furloughing many people who would not be a great risk to the community at all, especially based upon age and health. A letter on student loan forgiveness, which he has also moved on. Protecting funeral homes who are seeing drastic problems in terms of meeting the needs that are coming upon them with the tragedy. Also a strategic opening plan to begin working on that for when it's feasible. Following up on plasma donations and to expand the opportunities for that for people who have recovered and are willing to donate their plasma. Expanding the essential healthcare worker definition so that more people will come under coverage. We've written letters to the federal delegation seeking specific assistance and advocacy from them in so many areas. Also support for municipal budgetary shortfalls and expanding workers' compensation for essential workers and also providing for workers' compensation for medical professionals and a number of other things as well. Also had directed him to use stronger language in issuing his stay-at-home orders to make people feel the urgency of it. And he has taken us up on that expanded stay-at-home order, also providing greater PPE for medical workers, but also been involved through the Senate SLLF, the League of Legislative Leaders around the country, of which I'm chairman of the board, to help track down on some leads for PPE equipment, which I've communicated to Josh DeBall, the governor's point person on this. All hands are on deck. We've been working on this daily for the last 6 weeks. And I would ask certainly for the support of the Hamden Town Committee and the people who are delegates from Hamden to the 11th District Democratic Convention for your support. I have been, again, an advocate for many progressive issues, including building progressivity into our tax code since the state income tax was first established back in 1991. As chairman of the Finance Committee for a while, I was the advocate of the so-called progressive tax that became dubbed the millionaire's tax. One of my great sources of pride is being attacked personally by Rush Limbaugh one time in his program for being an advocate of a soak the rich tax program. What we've been able to do is instead of having a flat 4.5% tax rate, we now have a maximum tax of 6.99%. I believe it should be higher. I also believe that we need to expand the definition of the reworking of the pilot program, which is something that we're building support for to make pilot reimbursements under the college and hospital program more based upon need. Working with Representative Mike D'Agostino and others, we passed a change to the ECS formula that will incrementally give Hamden a significant increase over the next several years. So many of these things that are part of the advocacy that I've been working on. I am the child of two immigrants, both from Ireland. My father was a union member and organizer for the machinist union at the Winchester plant, was a union steward in his last years there. My mother was a member of District 1199 and the Hotel Workers Union before her marriage in New York. I grew up in a union household. I've been an advocate for working people my whole career, and look forward to continuing to do that in leadership in the state Senate again in the next term with all of your help. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Senator Looney. Does anyone have any brief comments? I know he does have to get to his online class soon.
I have some time. That class doesn't start
at
6:30,
all right.
So I'm good for 15 minutes.
Any questions for Senator Looney before we move on to our next Senate candidates? Oh, I see a hand. Is that a hand from Justin? All right. Have that.
Good evening, Sarah Looney. Good afternoon, Alex. In terms of a question, how are we going to protect our inmates, our incarcerated community around COVID-19 and all that is going on?
Well, that is something that our Senate caucus has written to the governor about. We believe there's already been a release of about 700 or 800 inmates. We believe it should be a lot more than that, especially those who are elderly, those who are frail, and especially those who have a safe place to return to. Obviously, it's problematic in some cases that we don't want people to be homeless or unprotected when they come out. But there are enough people in the category of being no longer a danger to the community, elderly or in frail health, and having a safe place to return to with family members who should be released on a much broader scale. Frankly, that I think is one of the disappointments in terms of the executive orders that have been issued so far. More action needs to be taken on that. And our caucus is already on record as advocating that. And I'm certainly in support of that and have been from the very beginning. Because criminal justice advocacy is one of my main interests. I do criminal defense work in my own private practice. I'm aware that the worst position to be in this state is to be a defendant who is a low-income person facing a criminal charge, especially if someone's income is slightly above the level in which someone can qualify for the services of a public defender. And there are so many people languishing in prison only because of financial reasons, because they were unable to make bail, and therefore they are in pretrial detention, and therefore not able to assist themselves and their attorney in helping to give themselves a better presentation in the eyes of the prosecutor and the court. Because when someone is out on bail, the system is to some extent at arm's length. He is able to, or she is able to, do some things in advance, to take initiatives to get into treatment, get into counseling, perhaps save money toward restitution if that's necessary. A person remaining in prison in pretrial detention because of the failure to make bail is unable to do none of those things, and is also under pressure from the prosecutor to accept an offer that he might otherwise reject, because sometimes that offer means plead guilty and you can get out of prison the same day. We need a substantial revamp of our entire criminal justice system, which penalizes people merely for being poor, and it's shown now in the lack of adequate release for people during this crisis.
All right, thank you, Senator Looney. Alex, you want to chime in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think that our governor needs to do a lot more, and that whatever pressure and relationships that our, senator, you're my senator as well, that you could put not just on the governor, but also on the Attorney General's office. I actually represent an inmate, a gentleman who is scheduled to be released. His max release date, the day he couldn't be in prison any longer, is in 2020. He'd already been approved for a halfway house before COVID-19. And then the pandemic struck and there was no places in any halfway houses for him to go. He has a safe home with his wife and his 3 children to go home to. He also has asthma and serious medical conditions affecting his lungs. He sleeps tonight in a room with 7 other men, including men who've returned from medical with temperatures but not severe enough symptoms to be sent to the state's supermax prison, where people who are testing positive with COVID-19 are being sent. Prisoners are hiding their symptoms because they don't want to go to a supermax prison that has been called a torture prison by the UN Special Reporter on Torture. So I just urge Senator Looney to please take more action. Talk to the Attorney General's office and the lawyers there, including the lawyer who donated to your campaign, Senator, and whose office unintentionally sent me an email when I tried to contact them saying, what's he going to do about it if my client dies because I represented a union of healthcare workers? And they suggested I wouldn't be able to do anything about it because I couldn't sue healthcare workers because I represented their union. Talk to those people in the Attorney General's office and ask them to show some compassion for people like my client and get them home with their families. Thank you.
Well, let me just add one clarification on that.
Yes.
He refers to to a lawyer in the Attorney General's office who gave a contribution to my campaign. That contribution was, of course, unrelated to anything related to this case, because that Assistant Attorney General has been donating to my campaigns for 10 years, and he is my son's father-in-law. So there is no connection between any given issue of the moment than the fact that he's a campaign supporter of mine, contrary to the aspersions that Mr. Taubes is trying to create by making that assertion.
Talk to him as a family member.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Rhonda? Yes.
Yeah, Rhonda. Senator Looney, are you going to be able to ask Governor Lamont for this executive order for the voting by mail?
Yes, it is a complicated issue because we, unlike most other states, are not free to make absentee ballot changes wholesale because our absentee ballot laws are controlled by the state constitution. I certainly support a state constitutional amendment to do that. That, unfortunately, would not affect 2020. But we do support and hope the governor will issue an executive order that will expand the concept of illness. Because the language right now in the statute refers to someone seeking an absentee ballot because of his or her illness. We believe that if we can change that language or have the governor issue an executive order to more broadly construe illness, that people who are in fear of their health because of the COVID-19 virus would qualify for that expansion and therefore a much broader use of absentee ballots in this year's elections. So I certainly will be advocating for that with him.
All right, thank you, Senator Looney. I see you have your hand up, Alex, but before we get to that, we have one more question, and then so this way you'll answer this next question, and then you could also answer the other question just to kind of keep things flowing. All right, so Roxana?
Yes, I got in a little bit late, but I wanted to hear what both of you, what are your ideas about and concerns, if you have concerns about the fact that with COVID-19, that the percentage-wise, Black, African Americans, and people of color are getting access to tests less than white Americans, and what is going on with that in Connecticut, and what are some of the plans to address those issues and those inequities?
It says to Alex first, and if you want to reply to the previous question, that's fine as well.
Thank you, Roxana, for asking that question. Just like Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Sandy and pretty much every disaster that we see, people of color are hurt the most and they get the least help in response. And locally, I've been joining in the Reverend Dr. Boise Kimber's call for a testing center in New Hallville to serve that community and to serve that need so that there's rapid testing in the area that we know is going to be hit the hardest by COVID-19 and is already being hit the hardest. But I just want to go back to the vote by mail. I completely disagree with Senator Looney that a constitutional amendment is necessary to enact vote by mail. I think that that's been an excuse that people in our legislature have been giving in order to not pass a law. New York state constitution is almost identically worded to ours, and the New York state legislature passed vote by mail last year with a very simple legislative fix. And I predict that the governor will enact vote by mail through an executive order. But the reason why he's waiting is because under Connecticut General Statutes 28-9 subsection B, his edicts, his executive orders that he's giving out right now only last for 6 months. So he's going to wait until 6 months before the November election so he can pass an executive order that applies both to the August 11th election, where I'm going to be running, hopefully if I get enough convention support to get on the ballot, and as well the November election, which we would also like to have vote by mail because we want that to be safe. Connecticut's one of only 10 states in the country, and the only state in New England, and the only state in the Northeast, many of which have very similar state constitutions that do not have vote by mail. And the legislative office has only given very old precedents on that.
Right. So Senator Looney, you'll have the final word here, and then we're going to move on to, so anyone who has other state Senate related questions, we have two more great candidates that are going to be speaking shortly. I apologize, the format that this is, I didn't want this to turn into a debate. This is typically, and I get why that is. I've been a candidate, I've been there, and I know the instinct, so it's a very different format now. We can't applaud everyone for appearing before our DTC, although I know we all appreciate everyone coming for us, and we have to figure out some way to clap, I guess. But also, there'll be time, I'm sure, for debates down the road. Typically in a forum like this, a candidate will speak, answer questions, another candidate will speak, answer questions, but this format just makes that slightly awkward. So we're going to try to move this along. Senator Looney, some final remarks, and then we're going to move on to our 17th, the mighty 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, first of all, on the absentee ballot issue, if it were possible for us to do it without a constitutional change, we already would have. It was proposed as a ballot question in 2014, was rejected by the voters. Our Attorney General's opinion and the opinion of our Legislative Council is that we do need a constitutional change in order to make far-reaching changes to our absentee ballot law. However, as I said earlier, I'm certainly hopeful that the governor can take emergency action to give us a more expansive definition of illness, that we can have broader participation by absentee ballot this year. On the other question, the very serious question about the large percentage of African Americans and other minorities who are testing positive, this is a crisis within the crisis. And that's one of the reasons that I was instrumental, along with others, in getting the CVS testing center to open in New Haven to provide higher volume testing. Also, I was able to help get Yale University an expedited permit to open their testing facility over near the Ingalls Rink. Continue to work on that. I think the fact that over 30% of people being tested test positive is a sign of the fact that we are not doing enough testing in Connecticut. The governor said today that that will certainly be ramped up over the next week or so as more testing equipment becomes available. But there is a particular crisis involving lower income minority people, especially, who are often living at close quarters in low income areas. Their percentage of both positive tests and active disease is much higher than the general population, and that is a crisis within a crisis.
All right, thanks to both of you for coming to our DTC. I really do appreciate it, and good luck at your convention coming up. And now we're going to move on to the 17th district by flip of a magic coin. George Cabrera is going to address us first.
Hi, Sean. It's George. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Thanks for doing this in light of this crisis. So I'm George Cabrera, and as some of you may know, I ran for state senate in the 17th district in 2018 and came 77 votes shy of taking the seat back for the Democratic Party. It was an amazing experience, very close race, and learned a heck of a lot. I have, as a bit of background, spent over the last 20 years fighting for progressive policies as a union organizer and union representative. Currently represent the workers at Stop and Shop, and have spent the last 20 years fighting for living wages, making sure that people have access to good, high-quality health care, making sure that there's retirement with dignity, with security, with a pension, and health care after work. And also been advocating for immigrant workers doing my work in organized labor for 10 years with the Carpenters Union, organizing immigrant workers in the residential construction industry, making sure that they were paid fairly and had good work standards. It was an incredible race, and I know most of you watched it and many of you helped. Thank you for all the phone calls and door knocking that many of you did on behalf of our campaign to get us to make it an incredible race. I did some soul searching after the race, decided that this is too important to let go, and I didn't disappear. What I did was I got right to work getting Dems elected in the Valley, specifically focusing on Ansonia and Derby, where we have left behind a lot of working class, blue collar Democrats who have voted for Democrats in the past. And we had a lot of success. There were no Republicans on the city council in Ansonia, and I worked with the AFL-CIO and other grassroots leaders in Ansonia. We were able to elect 4 new Democrats on the city council, which was the first time in quite a while that there is now a check on the Republicans in Ansonia. In Derby, we worked also with a coalition of grassroots organizers, and we were very successful. We took over the Derby City Council. We have a working majority there now. And our candidate for mayor, union firefighter named Brian Capolo, came just 34 votes away from beating the Republican mayor there, Zekin. And he's got a bright future. We think we can take the mayor's office in Derby in the next couple of years. I also continued my work on progressive issues, working to advocate for helping pass paid family leave, $15 minimum wage, through articles and advocacy, and working with labor to get those pieces of legislation passed. And I've spent, like many of you, the last month and a half working feverishly to protect our grocery workers who are on the front lines of this pandemic. And we are working on getting the governor to sign an executive order to designate grocery workers frontline emergency responders. We currently have a petition online and working with the AFL-CIO to put pressure on the governor to give them priority testing, and it's been a heck of a ride. I want to say that I think we're in a really good position to beat George Logan. I don't need to go through his record. I think most of you know it already. This is a man who is no friend to Hamden and has not done anything to really push the progressive ball down the field, so to speak. Voted no on minimum wage, voted no on paid family leave, voted against a budget that increased our school funding. Early voting was just discussed. He also was a no vote on putting the early voting on the ballot for the public to decide whether they wanted to have early voting or not. This is something I plan on championing quite a bit. So in a nutshell, I think, having come so close last time, learned so much, spent the last almost 2 years now building capacity in the Valley to build a bench, to build a base on which we can build our party on progressive issues and bring back the blue-collar working class voters in the Valley. I think that we're well positioned to beat Logan in the fall. So I really look forward to earning your support. And this is a seat that is very winnable, and I think this is going to be the year. So thank you, Sean.
All right. Thank you, George. And, in the interest of what we're talking about before, I'd like to keep this so questions specifically to George now, and then we will move on to Justin Farmer, and then questions specifically to Justin then. All right. Learning experience here. So any questions for George? Rhonda, I just noticed you have your hand raised. Is that from before? I think that's from before.
Yeah, from before. I'm good.
All right. Does anyone have a question for George Cabrera? All right. Thank you, George. And now we will move on to Justin Farmer.
I'm all set.
All right. Go ahead.
Cool. So, hi, y'all. I'm Justin Farmer. Many of you know me. I am on the city council. I ran for election 2 years ago and ran for re-election back in November. My family immigrated from Jamaica. I'm the youngest of 5. My mother assaulted one of the nursing homes, a Jewish home, when I was a kid. So I grew up with labor. In terms of, me and what I want to do for the 17th in our community, I'm an activist elected official. I don't hold any other titles outside of that. One of the things I've always tried to fight is the perception that I seem to be everywhere. And that's one of the arguments that we hear about George Logan all the time, is that he is everywhere. In a district where you have had, majority Democratic district, and it was a close race, That was something that should have never happened in the year of the blue wave, in the year of people really being active. And right now, you have people who are active around the coronavirus, but there's not a general excitement about the elections. There's a reaction to it. We as Democrats need to say clearly where we are on the issues. The DTC supports Medicare for all. I support Medicare for all. Yesterday, I spoke at the rally for a Green New Deal. You know, when we're talking about the issues that are closest to us, you know, I walk in and talk it. I just left a lawsuit against the state on prison gerrymandering because of all that's been going on with coronavirus. We decided to withdraw our case, but I've always been organizing on issues, whether it's my work at Planned Parenthood, fighting for reproductive justice, or working for Sanctuary City, or working on behalf of people on normal issues, or the work I'll be doing tonight, the council working on our budget. It's one and the same, and we as Democrats need someone who's going to clearly say where we are. We can win with moderation and try to get some of those Trump voters, but a lot of those people who voted for Trump, who also voted for Obama, were also favorable to vote for Bernie Sanders. And that's not just a mystical, magical thing that's happened. People like honesty and integrity, and people want to know where people are on the issues. So if y'all have any questions, comments, concerns for me, I'm always here, and I'm ready to organize and take back the 17th.
I thank you. Any questions for Justin? Anyone? All right. And I know, Justin, you probably, some of the other council members here probably have to, I don't even know how you're doing this, if you got split screens going or what, but you have a council meeting going on right now. So, so thank you for taking the time to speak with us. George, thank you for taking the time to speak.
Anytime.
All right, very good. So now we'll go back over to the part that we skipped on the agenda, and we're going to get some updates from our from Jennifer Pope and Carol Goldberg, and actually we have Mark on the phone as well. Mark Garofalo, how you doing, Mark? If he's still on the phone, I'm not sure. Yeah, he is. So who wants to go first?
I'll go. Hey, everybody. It's awesome to see you as always. As always, I am most impressed that you are capable of doing this so much more than me. We had a meeting. We've been having regular virtual meetings at State Central, and yesterday's meeting was about the state convention. So those of you who are delegates to the state convention on May 9th, on that day, you're going to be voting for the DNC people, the presidential electors, and the Democratic State Central Committee members. It should be short and sweet. The votes you're going to do between 8 and 11, 8 and noon, and then shortly thereafter, probably the governor will come on, give some speeches. Some other people may give some speeches and talk to us. But they're starting, those of you who are delegates to the state convention will be getting all kinds of documentation about what you have to do, when it's supposed to be done by, soon. Those of you who are delegates to all the other conventions, as the conventions get closer, you'll be getting information about those conventions as well. This is all new to State Central, so they're doing their best to try to put this together as best they can. But it seems like it's going to be a good idea. There is a site, which is a wonderful site. I went on this last night. It's called simplyvoting.com. And that's how people who are going to vote in the state convention, I mean, there's thousands of people who are going to vote. So those who are going to vote in the state convention will be voting through that. The information will go directly to State Central. But you know what? You guys might be able to use it. You have a big enough group that you might be able to use voting if you want to on particular issues on that site. There's a demo. It could show you how to use it. But it's simplyvoting.com. It's worth doing. And that's really what we've been talking about. There's going to be, there's an information board about different things that are going out. It's going to go out to Sean. I'm sure he'll send it out to everybody about what State Central is doing, how they're planning on doing all of these votes. And that's really where most of our discussions are right now at State Central. Jen, Mark, do you have anything to add to what happened yesterday?
I was just going to add, I sent out an email yesterday to the DTC, so hopefully you guys saw that. And that includes the link to the board that Carol just brought up. So it's a Google Drive doc, and inside that is tons of different documents. So pretty much everything I have sent you over the past couple of months in my updates is on that Google Drive. So there's questions about being a delegate, there's flyers about the conventions, all of that information is all there. So that's a good link to keep handy, and it's being updated regularly, so you can go back to that and check. And then the other link I sent out yesterday was to some online trainings that the state party has accumulated. So if you are interested in learning some things while you're at home, you might check that out. And then the only other thing I would mention is that the party has hired Chris Pitts, not in fairly recent months, to be the data director for the party. So if you have questions about Van or just like general questions, he's a good person to reach out about.
I think that's what Mackenzie Bailey's doing now, Jen.
Oh,
Chris is no longer doing it. It's Mackenzie Bailey, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I think Chris is now doing field work in the second
okay.
CD. But I'm sure if you reach out to him, he'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay. But I think that's it.
The only other thing I want to add, in addition to go along with what you said, if you guys get a chance, the trainings that I've been doing online, especially on how to do a campaign during this very weird time, the National Democratic Training Committee has wonderful trainings. I mean, they're about an hour long. You can either sit through them live. If you don't want to do that, they're recorded. It'll give you some idea of how to do all kinds of different things. If you can't find the site, I'll get it out to you, but it's worth taking a look at.
Yeah, Lauren and I went to an in-person training that they came here to do in January, and it was really good. It was really helpful, and we learned a lot at it. So I definitely recommend that group.
Excellent. Mark?
Hi. Good evening. Good evening, Hamden Democrats. It's a pleasure to be on the line to listen to a great group of activists, folks, and everybody in participating in the healthy debate. So I'm very happy to be here and to be working in the trenches with you to help elect Democrats in this crazy time that we're living. I think we have great opportunity to pick up seats in both the state Senate and the state House, and to really deliver a strong message to everybody in the state that the Democrats know how to govern, and we'll do it well with integrity and with the energy for which we are known. So I'm happy to serve in this position on State Central and work with Jen and of course my colleague Carol in the 17th, and we look forward to taking back that seat. And if anybody doesn't have enough to do, I want to give a shout out to our candidate in the second-time candidate in the 114th district. Her candidacy is so strong that she chased out the minority leader from the race. Yes. So we look forward to a resounding victory in the style and integrity of former State Representative Ellen Skalatar. So look forward to working with you toward a clean sweep in November.
All right, thank you.
How excited are you guys that Themis is not running anymore?
Yeah, it's a big deal, and it should help in the 17th. It's a great thing.
So
that candidate's Mary Wielander.
Yes.
For Themis's district.
That's right.
Her former district.
On behalf of all of us, we're just hoping that you'll vote for Mark and me in the 17th and Jen in the 14th. And you'll be voting on May 9th, the same day as the delegates to the state convention will be voting, and you'll be voting on one ballot, so it should be pretty easy.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
So let's move on now to who are state delegation. I know we have Mike we have Mike, Josh, and I believe Robin's also on the line. Mike, you want to go first?
Sure, thanks. You've covered a wide range of topics. I don't want to, probably better to just focus on questions. I guess I'll just say at the outset, I think we've made our concerns public about the town booking state or federal aid with respect to the coronavirus. We're just urging a lot of caution on that. We expect funding, we just don't know how much or when or if on any of that. So we've certainly made our feelings known about what the mayor did, and we did tell the Board of Ed that while it is anticipated that they will get some funding under the CARE Act, again, we don't know for sure, we don't know when, so we're just urging a lot of caution on that while we continue to obviously do our best to advocate for that and are working together as a delegation to make sure that holes are plugged at the state level so that the town, at the very least, is held harmless over the next few months. I just want to bookend the discussion real quick on absentee ballot. I think the letter is fantastic. I'm glad you're doing that. I would urge you to also send it to the state delegation, all of us, and State Central. And the reason for that is that we are hearing that the governor is reluctant to issue an executive order unless he knows there's support from the caucuses. And I can tell you it's a priority in the House. We expect to come in June and vote on the statutory change that Senator Looney mentioned. It's and I can circulate that letter. It's a very simple statutory change that to our absentee ballot statute that just makes illness generally a reason to vote absentee. And we have legal opinions that say just the spread of coronavirus, you don't even have to have a fear of wanting to get it. Just the fact that it's out there would be enough to trigger it if we made that change. I will say as an aside, I do actually agree with Alexander that there is some play in the constitutional language, and I'm not so sure an amendment is actually necessary for broader changes, but I'm not the Attorney General, and I'm very much in the minority on that, but that's something to work on down the road. But there's a very simple fix, but there needs to be, and while we expect it to be done by the governor through executive order, the legislature needs to make its feelings known. I am confident the House will do that, and I know Marty's going to do what he can in the Senate. I'm just less sure about the Senate because there's a lot of different interests and votes up there. And again, this is all the more reason to get a Democrat in office there, because we know Logan won't support any changes to expanded voting for obvious reasons. None of the Republicans will. So I'll just leave it at that and see if anybody has any questions, or let me pass it over to Josh and Robin and see what they want to add to that.
All right, who's up next? Josh, Robin? Josh, you hit the unmute first.
So I was going to make two general comments. The first being about Medicare for all, which I am definitely 100% in support of. I think it would be good at some point if maybe as a group we asked Rosa DeLauro to come and talk to us, only because I know that she is not in favor of Medicare for all. And as someone who is also deeply in favor of Rosa DeLauro staying in her position as long as she wants it, because I think she's phenomenal. I think at the very least we ought to listen to what her perspective is and why she doesn't support it. And I just want to make sure that we're not using that as a wedge issue against her. I think pushing her is great, but I also know that she's been phenomenal on just about everything. So I just want to put that out there because of my personal support for Rosa DeLauro. Anyway, and then the other aspect in terms of the no excuse absentee balloting portion, I had an op-ed that came out a couple weeks ago, and the current, I'm obviously very much in support of this in terms of making this long-term and structural. I know that the Secretary of State is fighting against this. She was just about a week ago talking with some folk in Fairfield saying that she was not in support of this. I'm not sure if it's a timeline issue or what. And yes, it is the governor who would have to promote that executive order to get this done. But if he is not going to have buy-in from the Secretary of State, it's not going to go anywhere. So yes, Matt Fitch is technically correct, but I would say that in terms of pushing people, she is still someone that we would need to push. That said, she is also, though, in terms of long-term strategy, very much the progenitor and person who is in the front of leading this as a constitutional change. So I want to be clear that whatever her concerns are short-term concerns as opposed to long-term concerns. And I would also make a plug for Sunday at 5. I'm going to have Max Reese, who is the communications director for the governor, on Facebook Live with me. So if you have any questions, jump onto Facebook. Feel free to ask them there. There's like 60 of us on here, so every minute that I talk is like 60 minutes of time. So I'm just going to finish there, and I would ask, unless you really feel like this is the platform to be asking us questions, that you use that we do it some other time, because this is going to go for another hour or so, and I'm going to end right there.
Wise words, Josh. Thank you. And so, you know, obviously most meetings we're not going to have quite as many people addressing the DTC, but this is a special one because we have the conventions coming up, and I thought it would be great to have the opportunity for the membership to hear from everyone. So next up is the amazing Robin Porter.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Thanks, Sean. I think one thing I'll piggyback off is something that Josh was talking about, because I know that Senator Lesser has been doing a lot of work around this Medicaid for All, which is kind of turned into public option, because that's what's actually in committee right now and got out. I know in some of my conversations with him, he has shared that Josh is right. Rosa is not in favor of this at the congressional level, but neither are the advocates. They feel like, and the doctors, they don't like it because, of course, their rates would decrease, and advocates just feel like it would lead to the privatization of Medicaid. One of the things that Matt shared with me was that the public option is really more the way of looking at how we get benefits through the state, and that the governor is not in favor of that. Leadership is not in favor of that. So Medicaid for All might very well be the way to go. I know that he also stated that with things being what it is at the legislature right now, with COVID and us being at home working remotely, they have been talking about maybe coming out with a study bill this year and going back and tackling this in 2021. The other thing that I wanted to address, I believe it was Roxana who had brought it up about the disproportionate impact that COVID is having on Black and Brown communities. And I just wanted to add to some of the things that Senator Looney said in addition to what he said. I wanted you all to know that several members of the BPRC and other legislators have actually signed on to a letter to the governor requesting that the Department of Health starts to collect data based on race, ethnicity. I actually asked that they add zip code to that, because anecdotally we know what it is, but data is what drives us. So we are very much on top of that and trying to think past COVID and what does it mean, not just for communities of color that have been disproportionately impacted, but also for our workers who are termed essential, but being treated like sacrificial lambs. As the labor chair, I've been doing a lot of work around that. Marty spoke about much of it. The workman's comp presumption, we feel that's important, because if we can't protect them on the front end with PPE, which we seem to be having a problem doing, then we should certainly be able to protect them on the back end with a workman's comp presumption, because many of these people are getting COVID simply from the fact that they're going to work and working in a lot of congregate care settings. And I will leave it there. The one thing I will say is that we are pushing this new Green Deal, the Crown Act, PTSI. We're looking to expand that for DOC, EMTs, and dispatchers. It was a short session because we got upended, but I'm glad to say that for labor, we actually got 14 bills out of committee and are looking to see what is bipartisan that has a consensus support, so that we can get some things done, and then everything else, hopefully that will be an opportunity that we have in June. And I'll stop there.
All right, thank you so much, Robin. And now we're going to move on to Sarah Locke. So for some of us know Sarah quite well, and some don't, so I'll just give a brief intro. So Sarah is Rosa DeLaura's relatively new, she's been in there for a little bit now, campaign manager. And she comes from kind of an activist background a bit, which is great to see someone like that in that position. And so she's coming to talk on behalf of Rosa DeLaura to the DTC. Go ahead, Sarah, all you.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's good to see you all virtually, at least. I've gotten so used to these Zoom meetings, but I do miss the in-person stuff. I just keep wondering every day who's wearing pants and who isn't. You just don't have the answers. But no, I'm here tonight just, and I do want to just voice quickly. I appreciate, what I'm hearing about Medicare for All, and certainly just want to give all this information to Rosa because she really does want to hear this. And I just want to be careful and say that, I'm here tonight talking about her campaign, not policy. So I want to, address these questions, but probably better, if I get this to her and then she can speak to her, someone else can. But in terms of campaign stuff, the convention is May 11th, and obviously it will be held virtually. Rosa and I are in touch with, the state party almost daily, trying to figure out how to best do this. All 5 members want to and have to do it the same way. Unlike the state convention, I think we're leaning towards doing sort of as much a traditional convention as we can, which would be, a Zoom option. And, so I don't know that we're going to go with the simply voting route, although again, we're still talking about it. I think that we want to try to keep the traditions intact, but have that done virtually, which would mean that everything would kind of happen in real time and via Zoom. But with that said, there's still a record of every vote. Each person has a unique voter ID. So we really want to make sure that the, integrity and validity are there, and that, no delegate feels like they were denied any rights to have access or vote in any way that they wouldn't in person. So I wish I had more information from you other than it's on May 11th in the evening. It's most likely going to be Zoom, and we're going to decide that by Monday. And both our campaign and the state party are going to reach out to you as soon as we make that decision so that you have all the information. And please reach out to me if you have any questions. This is obviously uncharted territory for all of us, and we're trying to do the best we can with these times. But I thank you for your patience and appreciate you being flexible with how we're going to figure this all out. And if you have any questions about the convention, you can either ask me now or, for time's sake, I hope you all have my info, but if not, Sean has it, and I'm always available. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. So we're going to move on. Does anyone have anything new that they want to bring up? We're approaching the 2-hour mark, but does anyone have anything new they want to bring up? See any hands up? No? No? All right. Then the best part of the day, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And before I ask for the vote, I'll say that maybe I'll see some of you if you're really looking for more Zoom time over at the Legislative Council now that the public comment section is about to start in a couple of minutes. So all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 All right. Anyone opposed? All right. Goodbye, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.